Welcome to 7 Days to Mastering the Art of the Interview. This is Module 1, the top 10 job interview mistakes. So let's get started. Now, we've all heard stories of job candidates who look great on paper, but who are an absolute disaster in person. And with fewer and fewer interview opportunities available in this overly competitive job market, it's essential that you make the best possible first impression. And the cool thing is, you can learn from the mistakes of others and avoid these top 10 blunders that everyone else is making. Now, the first one is the handshake. And a poor handshake says a lot about you. The 3-second handshake that starts the interview, this is your first opportunity to create a great first impression. But all too often, an interview is blown right from the start by an ineffective handshake. And once you've delivered a poor handshake, it's nearly impossible to recover in your efforts to build rapport. And here's just a few examples. You have the limp hand that kind of just gives the impression of a disinterest or a weakness. That's when you have like a really soft hand and there's no muscle in it. Then you have the tips of the fingers handshake. This is where you kind of grab their fingers or they grab yours. This kind of shows a lack of ability to engage. And then you have the arm pump. This is where you go in and you grab their arm really hard, or they grab yours and you really shake it and pump it. It's just a little too aggressive, kind of like an over-aggressive salesman. And even if you're a seasoned professional, don't assume that you avoided these pitfalls. Your handshake may be telling more about you than you know. So just something to keep in mind there. Number 2, talking too much. Now, in my recruiting days, I couldn't stand over talkative candidates. They talked and they never knew when to stop. Now, when you take too long to answer direct questions, the impression is this candidate just can't get to the point. And then you have nervous talkers. These are the people, they kind of give the impression that they're covering up something. Talking too much is not a good thing, and you're not alone. Many people have this problem. But most over-talkers, they just feel the need to further articulate everything that they're saying. But you see, when you talk too much, you're giving the interviewer more than they want to hear. Just give them the key points of your answer while keeping it to about 45 to 60 seconds. You could even try video recording yourself while giving answers to some common questions, and then watch yourself. Now, on the other hand, if you're interviewing for a sales job or maybe a teaching position, the ability to talk and elaborate on certain key points can be considered a huge plus. It's important that you give the interviewer time to speak so they can ask you follow-up questions instead of you just assuming that they want to hear everything that you have to say. Now, I've actually had some customers email me about this problem because they know that they're over talkers, and it never fails. It always takes them like 2 pages to explain themselves. But you see, this really isn't a hard problem to fix. But you have to realize that when you give someone so much information, they're just naturally going to lose track of what you're saying, and they're going to end up not remembering anything. Now, if you know that you're an over talker, one of the things that you can do is practice some of the questions in the complete interview answer guide. The guide is going to show you exactly what you need to say, and all the answers are well within the right time frame and guidelines, so you can feel comfortable in knowing that your answers won't be considered too long if you follow that framework that I have in the guide. Okay, let's take a look at number 3. Saying negative things about your current or past employers or managers. I'll tell you, the fastest way to talk yourself out of a new job is to start saying negative things in your interview. Even if your last boss was Attila the Hun, never state your ill feelings about him or her. No matter how reasonable your complaints are, you will always come out the loser if you show that you disrespect your boss or the company that you used to work for. I mean, maybe the place you worked at really was bad. Maybe your manager was a real jerk. But you never want to attack them in the interview because, you see, that's just your opinion, and a negative one at that. Now, if you really feel the need to speak your mind, attack the company as a whole, not an individual person. Considering saying something like, the company I used to work at created a very strenuous and demanding environment, and it became difficult to separate my personal life from my job, and working there was doing more harm to me than good. Now, only say something like that if the place that you are interviewing at has a more normal or relaxed work environment, because you don't want them thinking that you can't handle a little bit of pressure. So if you're interviewing for an investment banking position, you definitely want to let them know that you can handle a little bit of stress. There are always disadvantages to saying negative things, but rarely does that hold true for saying positive ones. So instead, I always suggest taking the high road and being positive. Let's move on to number 4. Showing up late or too early. The first lesson in job search etiquette is to show up on time for interviews. A lot of job seekers don't realize that showing up too early often creates a poor first impression as well. Act as if your time is just as valuable as theirs. Arrive on time, but never more than 10 to 15 minutes early. And if you're running late, just give them a call. It happens. We all get stuck in traffic, and our days don't go as we planned. I mean, we're human, and so are interviewers. So if you are running late, call them and let them know that you're running 15 minutes or so behind. But be specific and let them know exactly when you're going to be there, and then apologize for the inconvenience. Your interviewer is definitely going to respect you for that, and is no way this going to affect your candidacy. I mean, I've heard more interviewers being late for interviews than candidates. Let's move on to number 5. Treating the receptionist rudely. Since the first person that you meet on an interview is usually a receptionist, this is also the first impression that you're going to make. So don't mistake low rank for low input. Often that receptionist job is to usher you into the interview. The receptionist has the power to pave your way positively or negatively before you even set eyes on the interviewer. The receptionist is certainly going to convey her opinion of you to the interviewer, whether you treat her rudely or with the professional courtesy that she deserves. I mean, in short, she can either mention how polite you were or not. The choice is yours. Number 6, asking about benefits, vacation time, or salary. I mean, think about it for a second. What if a car salesman asked to see your credit report before allowing you to test drive the cars? That'd just be ridiculous, and you'd probably walk away in disgust. You see, the effect is about the same when a job seeker asks about benefits or other employee perks during the first interview. What you want to do is wait until you've won the employer over before beginning that kind of discussion. And I'll cover salary with you in another video program. Number 7, not preparing for the interview. Nothing communicates disinterest like a candidate who hasn't bothered to do any type of pre-interview research. But on the flip side, the quickest way to a good impression is to demonstrate your interest. And you can do that with a few well-thought-out questions that reflect your knowledge of their organization. So do some research on the company. Look them up on the web. Read about what they do, the products they make. Take note. Maybe even use some of their products. Find out who their customers are. Find out who their competition is. And once you know all this, then you can begin asking intelligent questions instead of asking them inane questions that just don't make any sense. But just to be clear, you only want to ask questions that will help you qualify them as a place that you are considering to work at. I mean, it's a two-way street. You don't have to work there. You need to interview them to see if they are a good fit for you. This is really important that you have this mindset because it changes the way you interview and it puts you in a stronger mental position. But you see, so many job seekers, they fail to realize this, and instead they put themselves at a severe disadvantage by thinking that it's just a one-way interview. The interviewer is interviewing them and that they really don't have any say-so, but they do have say-so. They have say-so whether they want to work there or not. So that's leverage. That's an advantage, and that's something that that you need to realize when you interview for jobs. Okay, number 8, verbal tics. A nervous candidate seldom makes a good impression. Now, the first signs of nervousness are these little verbal tics. And we all have them, and you kind of know what I'm talking about here. They're things like, like, you know. We do this without even knowing it. I do it. I've made some videos before that throughout my entire presentation, I kept saying, you know. And I did this over and over and over, sometimes up to 5 times in a single sentence. It was really embarrassing. But you see, it wasn't that I was nervous. I was just talking conversationally to a camera. So to get rid of these verbal tics that you have, first you need to be aware that you're doing it. You need to be conscious of it, and then you're going to have a better chance at laying them all the rest. But more than anything, it's just sloppy presentation skills. And I've seen many presenters on the stage continually stumble over their words, and they add all these little filler words in. So to see if you are doing this, record yourself with a video camera while answering some sample interview questions. Don't read from a script, but pretend that the interviewer asked you something like, why do you want to work here? And then start recording your answer while looking at the camera and pretending that you're speaking to the interviewer. And don't read your answers from a script. You need to speak naturally and from memory. And then go back and watch yourself and see if you're falling victim to having any of these verbal tics. If you speak this way, you want to be aware of this before going to the interview. It's okay to use a few of these filler words, because it sounds natural, but too many, it just kind of makes you sound nervous. And once you improve your confidence in your answering ability, you're going to do a much better job of avoiding these verbal tics in all your interviews. And one of the best ways to reduce or eliminate them is through practicing your answers to some common interview questions. Or you can even role play with a video camera and then watch how you do. And the Complete Interview Answer Guide, it's a great tool for this, and it's going to help you set up and frame your answers the right way. Okay, let's move on to number 9. Not enough or too much eye contact. Either situation can create a negative effect. If you avoid eye contact, you'll seem shifty or untruthful. You offer too much eye contact, and you'll kind of wear the interviewer out. If you sometimes have trouble with eye contact balance, work this out ahead of time in an interview practice session, maybe with a friend or somebody. Now, no eye contact, that indicates that you're uncomfortable, but you don't want to stare at them either. You need to balance this out. If you're in a room full of people, you want to pan your eyes around and make short eye contact with each person as you're speaking. If it's just you and someone else, then make eye contact with them when you speak. But glance around too, and then come back to making eye contact again. You can also watch what your interviewer does when they speak to you. Do they stare at you the whole time, or do they look around and then keep coming back to you? Well, obviously, they look around and then they come back and they look at you and then they go off and they look around at something and they come back to you. It's just more of a conversational style of making eye contact. Okay, let's move on to number 10, failure to match communication styles. It's almost impossible to make a good first impression if you can't communicate effectively with an interviewer. But you can easily change that situation by mirroring the way the interviewer treats you. For instance, if the interviewer seems all business, don't attempt to loosen him or her up with a joke or story. You want to be succinct and businesslike. Now, if the interviewer is personable, try discussing his or her interests. Often, the items on display in the office can be a clue, maybe like a golf trophy or a baseball glove or a ball or something like that. Now, if they ask you a direct question, answer directly and then follow up by asking, if they need more information. When you allow the interviewer to set the tone of the conversation, this can vastly improve your chances of making a favorable impression. You can put the interviewer at ease and make yourself seem more like him or her by mirroring his or her communication style. But this is not to say that you should imitate them. You need to be yourself. But you want to balance that with the personalities of the people around you so that you fit in. Polishing up your interviewing skills can mean the difference between getting the job and being a runner-up. And runner-ups don't get hired. I have one more blunder for you. I know I said this was just the top 10, but I'm such a big fan of overdoing things, I wanted to throw one more at you. So let's look at number 11, which is inconsistencies. Everything you say on your resume needs to match what you say in the interview. Everything you say to one interviewer in the first interview needs to be consistent with the second interview. You need to answer their questions the same way with the same answers. And all too often, people say one thing on their resume that conflicts with what they said on their LinkedIn profile or what they said in a previous interview. Your LinkedIn profile needs to reflect your resume. If your LinkedIn profile says that you're looking for stock trading jobs, but your resume says that you're looking for financial lending jobs, then the interviewers won't know what to make of you, and they're just going to think that you're taking stabs at anything that comes along. If this is caught, this severely diminishes your credibility and your chances for the job. I mean, everything that you do, you say, and write needs to come full circle. It all has to be consistent. What you say in your interviews needs to match what's on your resume. What's on your resume needs to match your LinkedIn profile. And what's on your LinkedIn profile needs to match what you say about what you're looking for in the interviews. It all needs to come full circle. Okay, that wraps up your first lesson in Module 1. Now that you know what not to do, tomorrow I'm going to give you my top 10 job interview preparation tips so you don't embarrass yourself on your next interview. Now, if you want to get a head start on preparing for the kinds of questions that you'll be asked on your interviews, I would strongly suggest reading the Complete Interview Answer Guide. It's really one of the best ways to prepare for interview questions. And there should be a link off to the right where you can pick that up, and sometimes I'm even running a promotion on it. Now, if you're not watching this video at jobinterviewtools.com, you're probably not subscribed to receive the full program. So head on over to jobinterviewtools.com/7days so you can be sure that you're registered to receive the full program. Plus, you'll even get more resources that I only share in email. It's all free, so you have nothing to worry about. Now, if you don't want to wait until tomorrow to receive the next lesson in your email, you can jump to Module 2 right now. All you have to do is share this lesson on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+, using the share buttons below, and then you'll automatically jump to the next lesson. And of course, I'd love to hear your comments. Have you made any of these mistakes before? What happened? Were you embarrassed? Please share your story with us. I'd love to hear it. I'm Don Georgievich. Stay on your game. I'm here to help you succeed so you can lead a prosperous career and enjoy a lifestyle you love. We'll see you soon.
Don, James Norton, where do I start? Absolutely the best program, and I did shop around and looked at a lot of different opportunities, and many would have required a lot more financial investment. But I feel absolutely blessed that I stumbled upon your site and had the good fortune of ordering your program because it changed everything. I had a session of interviews for a regional sales position, and I ended up getting that and offer on its way. And your help in the program, but additionally answering emails and for specifics in approach to a lot of these different individuals, and I ended up interviewing uphill quite a bit to the executive level, was invaluable. And just having you in my corner, I can't say that value, but very high, and I appreciate that so much. That's about it. I would recommend this program to anybody who wants to address their ability, not just in interviewing, but understanding that these techniques are absolutely valuable for any relationship, I would say. Bringing yourself forward, being prepared. What Don's program does is prepare you for what is coming at you, and his knowledge of the interview process gives you insights that release the tension around this type of a question process, and gives you insights into what the interviewer is looking for, and highly recommended. Pick it up. For me, the value was 10, 100 times that